Do my nail. Oh, I was doing the thing where I mimic you, but you stopped doing it. You stopped filing
Well,
your
I
nails.
wanted to be polite. I was just doing it during the intro because I realized
Yes.
how long they get, and when they get too long, they start breaking. So sorry, I should have
I
done
was
this
gonna try
earlier.
to do the same thing as you during the intro, but then you stopped, and now I look like an idiot who's rubbing my hands together because I don't actually have a nail file. Hey everyone, welcome to a late night live episode of Marvel-ous Movie Mondays on a Tuesday.
Yes.
This is an odd scenario. We have just been so busy, myself and I have been nonstop working. I just talked to Kelsey. I had a 5 a.m. shift today, 5 a.m. shift yesterday. Like I'm running on empty.
Yeah.
So this was like literally the only time we could fit this in. But like if you are live and want to comment and want to say hi, like please do so. I'm just letting you know this is not going to be norm. We're not going to do this live a lot. We're not going to do this on Tuesdays. This is how it worked
Yeah.
this week. But we wanted to get an episode out, and we were like, you know what, we have to do it. This was the time to do it. But how you doing, Kels? You're gonna have to be
I'm
driving the ship here because I'm delusional right now. I'm
no,
just tired.
all good. I took my notes. I got my second
Good.
rewatch in. That's why I wanted to do it
Second
later.
rewatch?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no. Sorry, I watched everything twice, so I got my
No, but
second
like
watch in.
that's what I knew you meant that. But like
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Okay.
I mean that's
Because
it's
second
26 episodes.
rewatch implies that I've watched it 3 times.
Rewatched
In
it and then
reality,
yeah.
it's yeah.
I knew what you meant, but
Um,
yeah, I mean you've watched it twice, which is great. I know a lot of people who were watching this have seen this show a bunch of times because of just reruns when they were kids and stuff. But this is my first time watching this season, as it is Kelsey's.
mhm.
So like, don't spoil anything. But I think this is a big step up from season one, personally, X-Men wise. I think maybe not.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get into it. But we have to get to some other stuff first because I skipped over the whole business we usually do at the first top of the show. Kels, any news?
Oh, actually, Dill, I do have some personal news that you should know, and you're finding out live on the podcast right now.
My God.
I have to get my wisdom teeth removed. So I am doing that a week from tomorrow
Okay.
on the 17th. So I'm just letting you
On my
know.
birthday.
Yes, on your birthday. Happy birthday. I'm going to give you my wisdom teeth. The ones that I
Please
get
don't.
pulled from my face.
Please don't do that.
Um
But sorry, I'm
and
just fixing the lights here. I
so
got
we're
new
just going
lights.
to have
It's
to
not
navigate next week's episode around that, just so you know.
well, I mean, a week from tomorrow, the 17th, you'll be able to do it an episode before then, right? Because our next episode's on
Yeah.
the 15th.
No, I mean like the week, cuz like we're going to at some point we're going to record for
Right.
this coming Monday,
Gotcha.
the the 13th, no, the 15th, the
15th,
Monday
and
the
then the
15th. I'm just
22nd.
saying
For the
for
22nd,
the Monday the
we'll have it.
22nd, we just have to,
Good to know.
see
Yeah.
how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I know your next question is going to be what's the best thing I watched, and I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of
Well, I got
if
answers
there's
for
anything
you,
I did
Kels.
watch.
I got answers
Okay,
for you.
please. You take it away then, because I don't
Um,
think I watched anything.
I treated myself. I was surprised when I saw Kelsey and I talked off air. I didn't realize she was back in the city. Otherwise, I would have invited her to this. But I treated myself to I'm finally out of my post show depression. Not out of it. I'm still in it. But like I'm finally up to
Mm.
going to the theater again. I will treat myself to a horror double feature. And I had an immaculate time seeing Immaculate and Late Night with the Devil. Immaculate was fine. It was good. It was whatever. I didn't think it was very good, but like it was entertaining. It was fine. Sydney Sweeney is amazing. I love her. I mean, she's my girlfriend. But Late Night with the Devil is the movie I'll be recommending to everyone till the end of the year because I feel like it's going to be one of those movies people don't really know about and don't want to see, and then they should check it out. It's basically like
Wow.
a documentation of a time a late night talk show went awry when they basically invited a girl who was possessed by the devil on, and for good ratings decided let's perform an exorcism. But it's very natural. It unfolds naturally. It's almost like
Sure.
you're watching like an old vintage 70s special, the way it's shot. So it's going to play
Yeah.
probably really well on TV. It's going to be on Shudder, the streaming service Shudder, but they did release it in theaters for a limited time. It's still in theaters at some big markets, especially New York. So I would go check it out. But it's just so good. They do use, okay, there's like 3 sequences where they cut to commercial and they have these like owl graphics, and those are AI. And there's been a lot of, bad uproar about the AI, which I don't
Mm.
support, which is why I took a
Mhm.
half-star docking on Letterboxd. It would have been a 4.5.
Mm.
I brought it down to a 4 because I don't respect the AI, but everything else about that movie was freaking amazing. And you know who the lead is, Kelsey?
David Datsmalkian.
That's right. Mr. Polka Dot Man from DC. Not that we're a DC podcast or anything, but also in Ant-Man. He's an Ant-Man, and he's is he in anything else in Marvel? I feel like he might be in something else. I mean,
Uh,
he's in Dune, he was in Oppenheimer. I
no, I don't think so. Just the
Have you seen any
Ant-Man
of them? I'm
movies,
thinking of
and he
Suicide Squad,
voices
probably.
Veb.
That's what it was, Veb. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
that's,
he's in the Ant-Man
Ant-Man, so
movies
you
as a
weren't wrong.
character, but then he plays a different character in Quantumania. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Again, my brain's not working, but that movie is really, really great. People should go check it out. I will eventually get around to doing a review for all these movies that I'm catching up on that I missed when I was doing my show, but I am just so tired and I need next week to be that catch-up week. But yeah, such a blast.
So
Such
Dill,
a great movie.
I actually did see something in
Okay.
theaters. I saw
Oh.
Love Lies Bleeding.
Oh my god. That's still my favorite of the year. What did you think?
It was great. It was really, really great. I don't know, like, I guess it was because of, like, maybe the clownery that was the Twilight franchise, but, like, I don't know why there was, like, this Kristen Stewart hate train for the longest
No.
time, but,
She's
like,
one of the best
she's
actresses working right
great.
now. She's
I
so
think
good.
that she's great. And she
She
was
got
great
Oscar
in this.
nominated a few years ago for
Yeah.
playing
Yeah,
Princess
yeah,
Diana.
yeah.
She's a good actress.
And I'm forgetting her name right
Katie
now, but
O'Brien.
Katie O'Brien, who is
Oh
also
my
in
god.
Ant-Man Quantumania as
Sadly.
Gentora,
Mhm.
was also incredible in this. Oh,
Literally the
the
Incredible Hulk. Like, she was built too.
no, literally, even
I saw
I
your
in
review. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I'm like balancing between going back and forth of like doing like a serious like review to
Or
just
like
like
quip it. Yeah.
one-liners that just like,
What I've
for the
realized is
gigs.
if I'm like super passionate about a movie that I want to talk about it, I'll do a long review. Or if I'm seeing it like opening night before other people have seen it, I'll do a long review. But if
Yeah.
it's been out for a few weeks or it's one of those movies where I don't have much to say, I'll do like a one liner because those are fun, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
movie's
if
so
I
good.
see a newer one, like if I see one that has just come out like within the month, I'll probably do I'll review it period. But if I like do watch one that I've just been like meaning to get to, I won't review it. Like I watch also Past Lives uh, uh in the past 2 weeks, and that was also very good. But I didn't review that one because I just feel like not that it's old news, but just like
It's in a
everyone's
past life.
contributed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in my past life. It's
Um,
done now.
cool. Yeah. So that's our business before the show. Now we can get into the actual topic. Like I said, Kelsey's gonna steer the ship. I am gonna have stuff to add, obviously, commentary wise, but I'm very tired. So Kelsey's gonna steer the ship until I either fall asleep or we finish. But um
Oh, good.
X-Men season
You're
2. I mean,
you're gonna be like this?
we
I'm
were
just
very
talking to myself.
we were very high on season one. We liked it a lot. I think because we
Yeah.
were more surprised that it wasn't as childish as we thought it might be. Even though
Mm.
I kind of figured it wouldn't be. But this second season, I think I just like the way they progress some of the characters' stories. I feel like
Mhm.
honestly they did a good job building on season one, like using pretty much like Days of Future Past pretty much branches off into three different segue storylines in this season. But everything that kind of built up in last season about the mutant, the rights and all that, the political stuff, but even the character arcs, like there are episodes in season one that are just kind of one-offs. They almost have like sequel episodes in this one that's more about like, let's follow this character on their own now that we know about them from season one. Now what are they up to in season two? I felt like the overarching storyline didn't really connect as much because it was the
Mm.
only real overarching storyline was Professor X and Magneto in their dinosaur world. But I think
Yeah.
the everything else was more individual episodic, but it is a TV series. I think though it was a really interesting way to take this. I liked it better just because I think there are more individual standout moments. Where season one, I was struggling to name a favorite episode because I thought it was just all very good. Here, I have like
Mhm.
episodes that I'm like, this was great, and this was great, and this was great. There are low points. This season
Yeah.
has the lowest point of the series so far. And when you texted me earlier, I hadn't gotten to the last three episodes of the season, so I know what you mean now. But
Okay, good,
because you
good.
texted me, you were like, "This has." I know exactly what my least favorite episode is. I'm like, "Really?"
Yep.
So I was watching. I was like, "This is good." And then I got to the last three episodes. I was like, "Oh," not to say the last two are bad, but I think you know where I'm going. That's
Yeah.
my spiel on season two, though.
So
What
we're
are
in
your thoughts on the
agreement.
season as a whole before we dive into like the specifics?
Well, Dill, I'll be honest. I don't know. I watched this. After my first watch through, I really kind of like sat back and was like, I think I liked season one better.
Okay.
I There was just something about the disconnect in this overarching season, like you were saying, that
Right.
like really bothered me. I did like the deep dives and like the individual episodes that we got for each character, but like even like those episodes, like I really only found one of them to be super interesting and entertaining. Like
Mhm.
I'll just like jump to it now. Like Gambit's whole episode, I was like, this is just too confusing. I don't care. The whole like the also, this was just like the season that I noticed that Gambit refers to himself in the third person a lot. I think he only did it like a handful of times in season 1, and then once his like character got more speaking lines and like more plot and more storylines, the more he talked, the more I just got annoyed. So I was like, I'm like, please stop referring to yourself in the third person and please like
Right.
speak in a whole sentence. Like this whole shtick that you got going on with like your accent and everything. I just like did not understand it.
I wonder who
I was getting
Kelsey's
frustrated.
LVM is this episode.
We'll get there when we get there.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
also up until the last 2 episodes, I'm sorry, I thought that the whole Professor X Magneto B plot line of this entire season was so boring. It was just the same
Yeah.
thing again and again. Like they would just like, "Oh, we're in this like magical land in Antarctica and oh, here's a new mutant we're meeting." And every single new mutant they met, a mutate, if you will, one of Magneto's mutates would
Mhm.
say the same thing. They'd be like, "Oh, Magneto abandoned us, and now we have a new master, and I'm trying to kill you." And that was every single moment that we got with them
Sure.
up until the last 2 episodes. So
Mhm.
I was just like, I'm getting tired of this. I really don't care about this B plot. And there were only like a few highlights for me in this season. Whereas last season, I was like, wow, every single one of these episodes is really holding my attention.
Interesting.
So that's how
Hey, I
I
mean,
felt.
I also watched a majority of the season the last 2 days when I had off time, either at work waiting between my breakfast shift and my lunch shift,
Mhm.
watching a few episodes, or like I was
Yeah.
watching them sporadically, so it was kind of like a refreshing, like, oh, good, I get to take time and watch X-Men, so it was much more satisfying when I was watching it because I was doing anything but working. But I think it's just circumstantial, and when I rewatch this, if I rewatch this, which I might feel the same way as you. It's just, yeah, I agree that with the Professor X Magneto plotline, I think is because we've seen so much of their bond in like the comics or in the movies, it's like
Mhm.
it's not as revolutionary here. But I think it's important
Mhm.
if this is like your first time watching X-Men that you get the fact that they are close. They have
Yeah.
some history, and I think it's just important to see them together. And it's cool just the idea that they don't have their powers there; they're kind of on an equal ground. And you get
Yeah.
Professor X walking, like all this stuff that I think is like interesting. But I do agree. I think it comes together well in the second, like the last 2 episodes. But I do think you're right. Like I feel like it's just kind of, well, we need to put them somewhere so we can focus on these other characters' stories. So let's put them over there, and then season 3 we can revisit Magneto more in its full. Because the first season is very Magneto heavy with all the mutant stuff. Um,
Mhm.
Kill all the humans. Whereas here, I think they were like, well, let's talk about some other stories, and we'll cycle back to Magneto. So for now, let's kind of build more character with Magneto rather than story. So I think it was totally character stuff. But I agree. I think it's not the most interesting part of the season, but it did also keep it tied together, which I liked. It felt like,
Right.
okay, I could watch it in sequence, but I do think there are enough standouts for me that I liked it. But cool. Let's dive in.
So, episode 1 debuted on October 23rd, 1993.
Wow.
Just because I said the debut date of season 1, I thought that I should include it in this one too. And our first 2 episodes of the season are a two-parter. So we got Till Death Do Us part 1 and then part 2 for episode 2. And I just right off the bat love the title because we open on Jean and Scott's wedding. And obviously
Mhm.
that's part of like the wedding vows. And obviously we're talking about literal like death as well because we
That's
got the
smart.
return of Morph. Dill. He's back. We have not seen the last of him, which is probably also why I didn't like this season as
Yes.
much because I
Well,
was glad to see that character go.
I've been kind of sitting on this for a little. This is a little bit of a spoiler. But I watched on Twitter. I watched the theme song for the new series on Disney Plus, X-Men '97, and
And
Morph
he's
is in
in
it.
it.
And I was like,
Ah,
no, I was like, I wonder why Morph is there. Doesn't he die?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then as soon as season 2, I'm glad they did in the season 2 opener, because if they brought Morph back in like season 4, season 5, and this whole time I've been like, how does Morph come back? I'm glad it happened
Mm.
now, so now I can stop sitting on that. So when you were like, oh, I'm so glad he's dead in the last season, I was like,
Wait.
so
Morph was in the title sequence in the opening credits
of the
of
new one on
season
Disney Plus.
oh, the new one.
So like it was like,
Not in
oh,
this season I just watched.
no, Morph is not. So my
Okay.
understanding, and this is something that everyone watching is going to be like, you dumb dumbs, because we haven't seen it. But my thinking is that over the course of the next few seasons, he'll work his way back to being fully good and back on the team, because
Right.
he's in the
Yeah.
new series. And I did read a little bit about it. They actually decided in this new Disney Plus iteration, which we'll talk about when we review it, that Morph is now non-binary, which is kind of cool. Which is also why so many people online were hating on X-Men for being woke. But also, again, X-Men has always been
Mm.
woke. We went over this last week, or 2 weeks ago. Last week was
Yeah.
April Fool's. But Morph is non-binary in the X-Men canon now due to the new Disney Plus series. But if you want to use he or they pronouns for now, because in this season Morph goes by he pronouns, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm excited now to see the Morph transformation, quite literal, because I do think Morph is someone who was annoying in season 1. We don't get a lot of them in season 2, but apparently they are part of the main team now in this new revival series. So my question is that like a choice? Oh, let's bring Morph back for this, or by season 5 are we full morphing again? That's the question,
Mm.
and I don't know, and I'm excited to find out. But Morph is back. It looks like they're here to stay.
Yeah.
So are you excited to see Morph back? I think this is a much more interesting version of the character than season
Yeah,
1, because of
for
the shape
sure.
shifting and the villainous hero border.
Yeah, so we kind of get introduced to him. I wrote down as like zombie morph because he's got like bags under his eyes. He looks
Mhm.
like he hasn't slept in years. He's, got this whole villainous thing going on. Later we find out it's because he's under Mr. Sinister's control. Um but we also get introduced to some more villains in this season, which I just wrote down Nazis. There's Nazis that are trying to wipe out the mutant race
Mhm.
this takes place in America. Yeah, because
Theoretically, I guess. Even
yeah,
though
in New
Professor
York.
X is British, I don't know.
Are they
I
in New
feel like
York?
most Marvel comics do take place in New York just because of
Yeah,
Stan Lee, but I don't know.
but one of the episodes is in Canada, I think.
Well, yeah, that's where Wolverine's from.
Yeah, right. Um, And so, yeah, the only reason why I call them Nazis is because one, they're huge bigots, and two, they even have like the armbands and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, so we're going there, right?
It's very
Um,
clearly meant to parallel. I mean, we've been talking about this over and over, but the political stuff, they're not hiding it. I mean, we see it quite literally a whole episode on Russia. Like they're
right.
very much not trying, can't speak words right now, but very much not trying to hide it.
Yeah. And so this episode is just Morph infiltrating the X-Men. He morphs as each one of them. He wreaks havoc in all of their lives. He pretends to be Storm. He sends Jubilee to the Nazi headquarters so she can get killed. He cosplays as Rogue and flirts with Gambit. So then let's talk about this moment, Dill. Let's talk about this Snow White moment in this episode when uh Rogue, who's actually more flirts with Gamma, is like, I'll be waiting for you in the rec room. And then she's there, passed out on the couch. And that's when Gambit decides, I'm going to give her a little smooch.
Hmm. That's sexual assault.
Gambit does that,
Yeah.
kisses Rogue while
I mean,
she is sleeping.
yeah, it could have been one of those things where like there was more to the conversation that we didn't see, of like, oh come, I'll be waiting, I'll be napping in there. You just wake me up when you want to, kind of deal. But I feel like that's not the case. I'm giving it too much benefit of the doubt. Yeah, it's the '90s. We're not excusing it, but it's one of those things where I think if they were to make that today, they would not have done that.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in this moment, X-Men, because you have been doing pretty well with like
Yeah.
living up to today's standards.
For all the people that are
Um,
annoyed that X-Men is woke, watch that moment and you will be
yeah,
satisfied.
you'll
Because
be
that is not
happy.
woke.
Um, oh yeah, Beast and Logan and Gambit all get like filmed attacking people when really because their whole thing is trying to make mutants look bad.
Mhm.
Um, and then this is when I wrote down my favorite line of every episode,
Mhm.
because I did do that for this season as well. Um, they're in like the war room, they call it, where they get all their calls
Yeah.
and where Cerebro is and everything. And a call comes in, and Professor X goes, "The private video line. Please excuse me." And I'm like, "What kind of call are you expecting, Charles? What kind of why do you have a private video line? What's that all about?"
And why do you need to be
Um,
excused? Why can't you just read it right, hear it right here?
exactly. We keep secrets in the X-Men house? Come on now.
Yeah.
And then obviously we find out that this is a distressed message coming from who we believe to be Magneto. He's like, "Meet me at these coordinates. I really need your help." And Professor X
Mhm.
is like, "I'm there. I'm there. No
Yeah.
further
Magneto
questions."
slides into those private DMs. You are there.
I think they're in love. I don't know. I think they
I
just confirmed it in this
I think
episode.
so. I mean, there's something. We see that even with First Class. There's some sexual tension at least.
Oh, for sure. So then episode 2, Till Death Do Us part 2, we open with Jean and Scott just trying to go on their honeymoon, and they get sent on their honeymoon to Genosha, the island famous for wanting to enslave mutants. So I don't know who their travel agent is, but they didn't do a very good job. Obviously, we
Mhm.
know that it was Morph who did this, because the whole reason we find out in this episode that Mr. Sinister's whole objective in this season is that he just wants to get Jean and Scott together because he wants them to have a baby so bad, because he knows that baby is going to be amongst the elite. It's going to be so decked out with mutant genes and mutant powers. He wants to enslave that baby. He
It's
wants
I hate to make this comparison, but it's like the movie I just saw, Immaculate, where it's like
Oh,
it's it's this
spoilers,
nut.
spoilers,
No,
immaculate
no,
spoilers.
it's the basic premise of the movie is that like it's about this like group of nuns and like they very clearly Sydney Sweeney gets pregnant and they're very much like it's the baby Jesus because she hasn't fucked anyone and they're
Mm.
basically like being protective of it of like we must take care of her because she is going to deliver the baby that is going to save us all. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that a little bit.
I I love it. If you weren't sold to see Immaculate before, you definitely should be sold now. Um, and then Morph pretends to be Professor X, but now Wolverine is there, and since Wolverine has like hyper
Mhm.
senses, he's like, "Smells like Morph is here." That's Morph. He knocks him out of his chair, and everyone's like, "What are you doing to Professor X?" But then Morph gets up and is like, "Oh, turns out it is me." He does his little
Yeah, your
laugh.
favorite laugh you love. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. One of my favorite lines from one of the episodes, I don't remember which one, is just, oh, it's literally the next one because it's on the next page. My favorite line from episode 2 was when Jubilee was at the Nazi headquarters and she was like, "Why do you hate us so much? What did we ever do to you?" And the guy just looked at her and said, "You were born." That's
Yikes.
hardcore.
That's
That's
hardcore.
hardcore.
Yeah, poor Jubilee.
And so Magneto, uh, so since Professor X dipped in the last episode and was like, "Gotta go meet up with my boy Magneto. You guys are on your own." Magneto, we finally see their meetup face to face, and Magneto's
Mhm.
like, "Hey, Professor X is like, 'You're not in distress. You were always above lying to me. We're just lying to each other now. What's going on?"
Yeah.
And Magneto's like, "What are you talking about? You're the one who called me." And so it turns out we find out that both of them have been played, and now
Yeah.
they're
Morph
stuck
catfish them
in
both.
exactly. They're
Yeah.
both stuck in Antarctica. Episode
Yes.
3, whatever it takes, is
I just thought of the meme, the meme where he's like, "So no head?"
Dill, this is the second time you brought up this vine to me in like the last two instances we've been together.
When was the lot? What was the other one?
When I saw your show.
What was the
Oh,
context?
because you were telling me about how in your show the baby doll, the prop doll she had, and then the head fell off one day,
Oh, yeah.
and you
And
just
then
went, "So
I
no
go
head?"
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but that was a quite literal one because the head
Yeah,
literally rolled. That was like Alice in Wonderland, but
yeah. Let's not go there now. This is a family show,
is
so
it?
whatever it Who knows?
How many? I
So,
want to know in the comments. How many of you are sitting around with all the kids and grandma and grandpa watching
how
Marvel-ous
many
Movie
gathered
Mondays?
around the television like it's
Who's
the
driving
1950s?
cross country from like Maryland to Florida for your big vacation with the dogs in the back playing this on the radio? Let us know. And if you are a family and want to sponsor the show, please give us money.
That's
I'm
crazy.
so tired, Kels.
Begging
Right.
families for money? They have the least money.
If you want
Do you know
to.
how expensive kids are?
True.
We should be begging like bachelors,
we can
people living
sponsor
the
you
single
then.
life.
Yeah. So if you are on The Bachelor, I don't know.
Episode 3 is Storm's episode.
Oh yeah.
So this is when we find out,
Storm's got a child.
so right now on the X-Men scoreboard, they got -1 point for that whole Gambit kissing Rogue on
Okay.
while she was sleeping, right? But now
On the
they
PC
get
scale.
on the PC scale. Now they get +1 because we find out that in this episode, this boy, Minari, 2 moms. Yeah, that's right. 2, count them. 1, 2. We've got the birth mother. I believe her name is Shawnee. And then we have the woman who helped raise him, his second mother, Storm. So Storm and Shawnee both raise Minari in this village in Africa. And I was obsessed with it. I loved it.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, he does get infiltrated by this character called the Shadow King. I looked into the Shadow King in my here.
Oh,
Pull it out.
look at that. It's been a while since we've seen that.
Dusted off an oldie for this episode because we were getting introduced to a lot of new mutants. I wanted to know the lore. I wanted to know the context. I wanted to know what they did in the comics. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So the Shadow King actually does, like, his main mission in the comics is to infiltrate Storm like he wanted to in this episode. He was just using her son Minari as a way to get to her.
Mhm.
But in the comics, or in this comic specifically, Storm is actually married to Black Panther. Fun fact. And so you know who defeats the Shadow King? You're never going to guess, so I'm going to tell you. Bast, the Panther King that they
Oh
that they
wow.
worship.
Interesting. I
So
love
just
the
want
connectivity because for so long we've lived in this world where X-Men is so separate from the MCU. So it's nice to see, and this season we'll see later how characters we know from live action MCU actually were able to interact with the X-Men back then when the rights were available.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Can't wait to
You know
talk
what
about that
you know
episode,
what I'm
Dill.
talking about. Yeah.
Can't wait to get there. Also in this episode and in this season in general, I realized that Wolverine loves a side quest. He loves going on his own little mission.
He liked
And
in the first season too. He was like first chance he had to
yeah,
get to Canada, he went.
right. And so he's looking for Morph in this episode.
Yeah. I feel like there's
Anyway.
a little bit of that Professor X Magneto thing going on with Wolverine and Morph. He was really upset when Morph died, and now he's
Yeah.
like he's having a tough time. I mean, he's also the one who
Yeah.
smelled him first, so it's like, he's got that scent in his mind. He's like, I
I
just
could
smell him.
definitely see Wolverine having a big fat crush on Morph. It's giving like he's not like into men, but like he's into Morph.
Well, Morph is
You know how they say
non-binary, so
like
Morph is
Morph
not.
sexual.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
he's Morph sexual.
I see it.
Well, because Morph can also be whatever Morph wants too.
That's true.
So if he likes the smell, and he likes the personality.
That could get crazy.
Morph can become the Wolverine. And then it's getting real kinky and weird.
Morph could become Jean Grey. Should we take it there?
God.
Do
You think Wolverine, you know what? Do you think Wolverine in like high school was like, can you like turn into Jean real quick?
Oh
Like,
my god.
like they
Wait.
experimented, but like he kind of abused his friend to just like shapeshift into whoever he wanted.
Have you ever watched that? Did you ever watch Black Mirror?
No. Too scary.
It's reminding me of there's a Black Mirror episode with Anthony Mackie. Okay, so it's all tied. It's Marvel related. This little tangent.
Right. When we do our Avengers movie club for Anthony Mackie, we'll have to do it.
We have to watch the Black Mirror episode. It's a crazy episode. So the premise is that him and his friend, who's also a male man, they get a video game. Like, he gets him a video game for his birthday. And since the technology is so advanced, you just stick on these little things on the side of your head, and then it like puts you, it's like virtual reality, but you're not wearing
Ready
like a big
Player One.
headset.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah, sure. I've never seen that
without the
movie,
big
but
headset.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like in it and you become the character that you chose. Imagine you're playing Super Smash Bros and you're just Kirby. You know what I mean?
You picked a good one.
Yeah. Well,
I thought you were
Kirby's
gonna
the
say
go-to.
I thought you were gonna say something bad.
Well, for some reason, I almost went Yoshi, but I never pick Yoshi, so
Not in Super
I
Smash. In Mario
ultimately went
Kart,
Kirby.
Yoshi. Mario Kart, you pick Yoshi. She's great, but in Super Smash, I don't think
Yeah.
you go for her in that. No.
Who, Yoshi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yoshi's a girl?
Yeah. Right? She lays
I didn't.
eggs.
Well, I thought she like became an egg.
I don't. I'm
Because
gonna look.
she's
I don't
like
want to
rolling
misgender
around.
Yoshi. I don't want to misgender
Listen,
Yoshi.
I don't know. Let's just say they. But
Yeah.
anyway, this Black Mirror episode. So they enter the video game and they are the characters. And then as the characters are like fighting, and because the game is so realistic, you can like feel everything, right? Then as the characters in the video game, they start hooking up.
I'm listening to you while also reading about Yoshi's gender binaries,
Oh.
which are so fascinating. So apparently Yoshi, some say Yoshi's usually referred to as a male, but is definitely asexual and they reproduce without a mate.
Mm,
Therefore, they really could be male or female. They're neither male nor female. So they are
mm,
non-binary, but if they're
mm,
referred to any pronoun, it's usually he, him in most of the game's literature and stories.
mm.
But he is asexual. So Yoshi, wow. What a
Yoshi don't need no man.
yeah, wow.
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm just like that's
Hey,
so what about Birdo though? I thought Birdo and Yoshi. Never mind. Let's get into the
okay.
show we're talking about. But Black
We're
Mirror,
only
that
on
sounds great.
episode 3.
Yeah.
We gotta go. We got 10 more to go. But anyway, that was the Black Mirror episode. That was all I wanted to say about it. Everyone should watch it because it's great. It's really fascinating. Um, and it's starring Anthony Mackie, so it's all connected to Marvel. Um, so anyway, Storm is able to defeat the Shadow King because she flies up into the atmosphere. He can't breathe, which is when I asked the question, shouldn't a creature from an astral dimension be able to breathe without oxygen? I don't know. But then he's like, I can't breathe. So then he leaves her body and then they get him back into the astral dimension. And this is the episode when Magneto and Professor X find the Savage Land, the land of the mutates.
Yeah, and the
Episode
dinosaurs.
and the dinosaurs, yes. And there's also like cave people, like cave women and cave
I
men.
really like the dinosaurs. I think that's why I really like this season.
You like dinosaurs, Bill? You
Not
dinosaur
usually,
kid?
not usually, but I like
I feel
this
like
one.
you had little dinosaurs like lined
I
up in
actually
your
wasn't.
room.
I did not like dinosaurs,
I
but I
could
like
see
these
you being
dinosaurs.
a dinosaur kid.
I was not a dinosaur kid.
Honestly, I
My
could
brother
also
and I
see
were more
you.
like dragons and knights. Those were like the toys we played with.
Okay, you had like the plastic castle set
Oh yeah,
because I remember one of those growing up.
yeah,
I feel like everyone just had like a random castle.
yeah. But
Anyway,
like, yeah, we went hard.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
big dragons and
You
knights.
and Jake,
We had a
yeah, I know.
jester. We had a jester. We had a princess, but we had also like kind of like your Zelda, where it's like a princess, but she also like had a bow and arrow. We were fucking cool. We had a cool castle. We had a dungeon,
Okay. You had a dungeon. We had a dungeon too, actually.
but it was like a
Growing up.
dungeon. It wasn't like a dungeon. It was a dungeon.
Oh, mine
We
was
need to
just a
get back on
closet
track.
in my basement.
We need to
Anyway,
get back on track.
episode 4, The Red Dawn.
Kelsey's
Hated
like,
it.
oh, you meant a toy dungeon. You hated the Red Dawn?
Yeah, hated it. Didn't
I,
didn't like it. Didn't find it interesting. I love Colossus, don't get me wrong.
I think it's a little ahead of its time, though, especially with the Russian politics. Like, I do think it's one
Mm,
of those that hits different now. Well, I guess it hit then because of the Cold War stuff, but like, I really think it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like nowadays it's not as big a deal, but like, I feel like that back then talking about Russian politics was. So I don't know. I give it that
yeah.
benefit of the doubt. I like this one.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Um So the two I wrote down. Oh, oh, sorry. I'm just reading. Sorry, I'm like reading my little notes,
Welcome
and I'm
to
like,
our
I'm so
podcast
funny.
where Kelsey reads silently and chuckles to herself, and you all have to interpret what she means. It's a podcast like no
Sorry,
other, where we're not
sorry,
actually
sorry,
talking to
sorry.
you. No, I'm
Okay,
kidding.
because I just wanted to find what my favorite line was, and I
Guys, this is
found
the
it.
silliest podcast we've ever done because it is late. I am going on 3 hours of sleep. I've been up since 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to wake up. I'm having a blast.
We're gonna get through it. The one thing that I did find fascinating was when I looked into the big villain of this episode, Omega Red,
Mm.
was that one of his powers that they listed in the encyclopedia was that he gives off a deadly pheromone, which was giving like Dracoff
Black Widow? Yeah,
in
yeah.
Black Widow. And it was also just funny to think about someone being like dies. And also that he was created, it was the Russians' attempt to make a super soldier. So he was the Soviet super soldier.
Isn't that Red Guardian? Is it the same character or it's a different
No,
character?
it's different. I think that he was just they also said that he was kind of among like a team, or like there were different versions of him. So there was actually also like an Omega White, Omega Blue,
Whoa.
and Omega Red.
Mhm.
I don't remember if those are actually the three colors, but that from what I can remember. We also
Cool.
met another mutant in this episode. Her name was Dark Star, but for some
Mhm.
reason she's not in the encyclopedia.
Could be
I
a
don't know.
original from
Yeah,
the show.
maybe. But she was, or maybe did I end up finding her? I think I did actually. Cuz she had some lore too with this whole Omega Red thing. Like she used to work for the Soviet, and then she like rebelled and was like, you guys aren't doing the right thing. But anyway, I only bring her up because she said my favorite line, because right at the end of the episode there's like this group of like Soviet Russian guys, and one of them says, soon it will all be as it was. And then, literally without missing a beat, she bursts through the door and says, it will never again be what it was. Like, to be clear, it will never be what it was. And I just thought, like, the comedic timing, I was like, that's comedy. Like, that's just comedy. I had to write
There
it
you go.
down.
Yeah.
Episode 5, Repo Man. This is when we hitchhike it to Canada
The
and we
Wolverine one.
meet. This is the Wolverine. This is the literally X-Men Origins
Yes.
Wolverine. I've
And
seen
it's
this
so
movie.
much better than that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though, this Heather character, have we met her before?
I
Was she
don't
in
know.
the movies?
The movies they do a lot on the
The guy.
Sabretooth relationship. Yeah. And
Sabretooth
the
and
guy.
and
Yeah.
the main guy who like experiments on him, which I think his name was like Stryker, wasn't it? And they haven't
Yeah.
mentioned a Stryker once
I
in the
don't
show.
think Heather. Yeah, Heather Hudson lived with her husband Travis on a farm. Okay, apparently they do bring her up in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh.
This is her.
I
I
vaguely
guess she's older in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
remember that scene. Yes, the old people, because doesn't he like steal their motorcycle
Yes,
or
so because
something?
he doesn't age, so it's one of those things. Yeah,
Yeah.
or he doesn't age fast.
Okay. Okay, then that's cool then.
And she gets killed
Um,
by Agent Zero. Yeah, that movie I've tried to block out of my mind. So thank you for that, Kels. But
sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Wolverine gets like beckoned by Heather because he trusts her, because her and her husband both took care of him like
Mhm,
immediate post treatment that he got from his adamantium
mhm.
uh
Spine.
spine skeleton. That's the word I was
Skeleton.
looking for.
I was looking for that too. I just wanted spine, which is part
I
of a
kept
skeleton.
wanting to say skull, and I was like, no, but the
Well,
rest of it
skull
as
and spine.
well.
If we had put ours together, skull and spine, we would
Skull,
have been like, oh,
spine,
that's the full
skeleton.
skeleton. Yeah,
Right.
and bones, I guess. Yeah, and
That's why
arms
there's two of us here.
and that's why there's the three prong, claws.
Yeah, exactly. For
It's all
sure.
part of the skeleton.
It's canon now. And so he goes out to
My
Canada.
castle had a cannon too. Sorry, keep going.
Go ahead. I'm saying go ahead to myself.
You heard what I said, right?
Yeah. Your castle had a cannon.
Yeah. Well, you
It
got
just
excited
feels
about
like
the
you're
dungeon.
bragging at this point, Dill.
Okay, sorry, never mind. It didn't have a cannon.
Okay. And so we meet Alpha Flight. which I have brought up before on this podcast and described them as the Canadian Avengers, because that's what they
Yes.
are.
Mhm.
But they're all mad at Logan. They're like, "You have ditched us. We don't really know who you are, but all we do know is that we have to get you back to the lab." And he's like, "I've had my fair share of labs. Don't want to go back there."
Mm.
And so we find out that basically they just want to experiment on him to figure out how he survived the treatment, because they've been trying to replicate it, and they haven't gotten it to work. And that is when he said my favorite line, which was, "I survived it because I'm a mutant, you dimwit." Say it with
Gotta
your
love that
chest,
dimwit.
Logan.
It's every time you know there's a curse word when he says something like dimwit, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what would that have been in rated R?
Okay, and then this was the episode where I wrote down that Magneto and Professor X just keep running into different mutates, and it's the same storyline over and over again.
Yeah.
It's, "I'm gonna kill you. I hate Magneto because he tried to enslave us, and we have a new master." And by the way, they're building up this second master. They're like, "Oh, we have a new master," and they're like building up, building up. They're never calling him by name. So I'm like, "Oh my god, who's this master going to be?" All for it to just be Mr. Sinister? We did all of this just for it to be the villain I already met
Yeah.
a season
Yeah.
ago? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it. Okay. Episode 6, Externally Yours.
Mm.
This was Gambit's episode. This was
Yeah, which
when
we've already covered. Not great.
there's this rivalry between assassins and thieves, and his brother is like getting kidnapped. He's got to go help him.
Mhm.
Um,
What I did like about this one, and you
Go ahead.
kind of see this on the previously ons. Like I said earlier, season 1, it's cool how like Days of Future Past is still having its effect here, where like Gambit's still not necessarily the most trustworthy of the group. Like they're setting this one was clearly like a big Gambit episode that a lot of the character was set up in that episode, which I really liked. And then with the Cable one, which we'll talk about, was set up in Days of Future Past. Like I feel like there's a lot of
Mm,
cool like tiebacks to the first season, and this being one of them, I guess, from like
mm.
just a perspective of Gambit trying to find his place in the group type deal. So I like that. I like how that's still a recurring theme, because he's not still quite sold with that group yet, even though he was proven to be innocent. It's still, there was still a lot of mistrust thrown his way, which probably ticked him off, and it did tick him off.
Yeah. We get introduced to his kind of wife, or like a girl he used to see before he left home.
Yeah.
Her name was Bella. Well, he just referred to her as Belle in the episode, but she was in the encyclopedia, and her full name is Bella Donna Boudoir, I think is how you pronounce it, or
Mm.
like boudoir. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because he's like Louisiana, right? So it's like the
Yeah.
Cajun. Yeah. So
His name is
Boudoir.
Remy LeBeau is his name. So it's all very like French
French Quarter.
influence.
Yeah. Mhm.
And in the comics, she gets killed by Deadpool. Fun fact. This episode did have a highlight of my favorite it's not even a conversation. You can't even call it a conversation, but it's just my favorite string of dialogue
Okay.
of like 3 phrases that all followed up each other, because I just feel like whenever Jean Grey is involved, like she's just
Which is very far and few between.
Far and few between, but when she's involved, it's almost like she's just a little dumb. and I'm so sorry. Like I'm a feminist, I'm
It's
a
an
girl's girl,
animated
but like
character.
what are they doing to
She'll be
Jean
okay.
Grey? Yeah.
The
But
voice
Jill,
actor's just saying the lines.
have you ever heard of that TikTok sound that's like, and then we had to like flee the Iraqi soldiers, and it's like this like dark sentence, and then all of a sudden it's like this person just going, "And today I saw a balloon."
Yes.
Have you ever heard this TikTok sound?
Yeah,
That's Jean Grey in my head. Like she's just like, "Today I saw a balloon." Because this is a string, respectfully in this order. This is a string of dialogue that gets spoken by Wolverine, Rogue, and then Jean Grey. And so Wolverine goes, "No wonder Gambit's so messed up. I've seen some of the rat traps you've holed up in. I sense people nearby." And it was just like it again, it's the timing. It might not sound that funny of just me repeating it, but like if you go back and you watch the episode and you hear how quickly one after another those lines follow each other and how disconnected they are, like
Yeah.
it's Wolverine walking into this like dingy old house and going, this place is a dump. Rogue absolutely roasting the shit out of him, and then just Jean Grey going, I sense people nearby. Yeah, that's your like one power, and you don't even do it that well. And what?
Uh,
You sense them because maybe you hear them right behind the door they're behind? Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, it just
oh,
made me
Gene,
laugh
I
so
can't wait
hard.
for the Phoenix storyline because I know she's gonna get some redemption there. But right now, I mean, what are they doing?
Okay, so then the next two episodes are also a two-parter. The Time Fugitives, part 1 and part 2. This is when the season really picked it back up for me because I feel like the last two episodes were like kind of meh for me, especially the
Mhm.
Gambit episode. But now we're back in Days of Future Past territory.
Oh yeah, this is the
So,
what episode is this again? What did you say?
episode 7, Time Fugitives, part
Yeah,
1.
yeah, this is Cable's. Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This was my second favorite episode or like episode. Yeah.
Like, are you grouping part 1 and part 2 together, or you're
Yeah,
saying
like
like
yeah,
part
I'm
1
because I
specifically?
watched them. I watched them as one story.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, if they had been able to release it as one, they would have. It's just with the time slots they had on Saturday morning cartoons, they only had a half hour. So I think the
Yeah.
part one is solely because of time slot, not because they wanted to split it up. So I'm treating it as one episode.
Still, the back half of this season, so good, dare I
Yes,
say.
I'm telling you, it's a great season.
Minus that one episode that we both haven't mentioned yet that we're gonna
Yes,
get. Minus that one.
which
Take
is the
that one
next
out of
episode, or no, 2 episodes from now.
no, 2
I don't know.
episodes from now.
But I will say I still really like the Russian stuff and I like the Wolverine backstory stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
saying since like and the first episode's really good. Like I'm consistently a fan of this season. I
Okay.
think the Gambit
Okay.
episode's a little weak. I think the Storm episode's fine, but nothing special. But I do like that they're getting their own spotlight, so we're at least getting to know them better, which is I think the strength of the season. Then we get another one for Rogue coming up, we get another one for Beast coming up. Like everyone gets their own little moment to shine. Here we get
Yeah.
Cable, who's not even like part of the main crew, but gets his own moment to shine. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head on why I love this season. But yeah,
So basically in this episode is kind of where we get introduced to Cable's kind of like it really mirrors his whole plot in Deadpool 2.
yeah,
With
where his
him
son
like jumping
disappears
back in
and
time and
yeah,
trying to prevent something bad from happening. Like that's
mhm.
his whole shtick. And I feel
and
like
and
they
the
really
whole
nailed it.
and the whole thing is he's an antagonist because the way he goes about it is antagonistic to the heroes, but he really is
Right.
doing it in a good way, like doing it in a for a reasonable cause. And I think that's why we love Cable in Deadpool 2 because eventually we come around to him because we do understand his motives and we are rooting for him to get his son back.
Right. And he also has this little cube, his little AI buddy. He has his Apple Watch on that's telling
Mhm.
him everything that's going on and is giving him all the advice. And she's ruthless, dude. The entire time she's just like, you're being illogical. The best way to go about this is to save the billions of people and kill the millions. It's not hard math. I crunched the numbers, and billion is obviously more than a million. So that's the number that you should save. I don't know why you're being so stupid about all this. Like, she is like ruthless the whole
I
time. I
think
love
if
her.
they ever bring Cable back, well, I think that's hard because you're making Deadpool 3. So like if you're bringing Cable back, it's probably gonna be Josh Brolin, even though I don't know why you'd bring him
Mm.
back. But if they were ever have that AI somehow in the new X-Men of the MCU, I need you to audition for that role, and I'm gonna just send that tape because that was perfect.
Yeah, I think I could do it. I just nailed it.
Yeah.
Also, I loved how this Cable, like this voice actor, like at first I was just like, okay, when I saw Deadpool 2, I was like, all right, it's just because Josh Brolin has a lot of hype right now. Like he's Thanos, like they
Mhm.
just like Josh Brolin's really hot right now. So of course he's gonna
Yeah.
be like Cable,
Did you
whatever.
see Dune 2?
Yes.
He's sweaty and hot in that. Like he's like physically hot. Like I watched that guy and I was like, dude, you need a shower. Like I was like, I,
Yeah.
I was getting hot watching him, and
Well,
not in like the hot way where I'm like, ooh, I'm
no, no,
hot. I
no, I
was like,
know.
whoo, dude, you're like, take your.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is gonna sound
you'd be
bad, but like,
hot too if you were on Arrakis. That whole
get a pack
planet
of
is
ice.
sand.
Yeah, but like I feel
It's
like
sand and the
Timothy.
sun.
I'm never looking at Timothy Chalamet being like, oh, dude, get him a wet rag. Like I'm looking at Josh Brolin like buzz
Okay,
his.
I
I was
see.
like, give him a buzz cut and get him a fucking
Yeah.
tub of Ben and Jerry is like that guy is hot. And some people would think he's like hot too. So it
Yeah.
works in both ways. But like I was watching that, and he is the actor in Dune 2 that I think sells the heat of Arrakis most, because he just looks just like I don't even know. Like
He
like
just
you could
looks warm
yeah, like
the whole
he
time.
takes a step and it's like grease flies through the air,
Yeah.
in a good way. But
Hot man. But honestly, what I was saying was that this voice actor kind of sounds like Josh Brolin. So I was like, I totally respect that casting choice looking back, because they sound similar. Like, totally embodies, like, Josh Brolin is the human embodiment of this guy who's voicing Cable.
Yeah.
Which was my whole point. So what was crazy to me about this episode, Dill, was that the entire episode is a what if scenario. It doesn't even happen. It's just the computer telling him, like, oh, if you don't stop it, this is what the events will be. And that threw me for a huge loop. I didn't know if you saw that coming, but after I saw Apocalypse take down all the Avengers, I was like, what the fuck's going to happen next? But then it turned out that it was all just a hypothetical, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And so, the line that I really liked from this episode was when we get to the end of the fight, after we find out the Apocalypse reveal, Hank Beast saves Creed, the Hitler of the Nazis, if you will, the leader of the Friends for Humanity people. And he says, "Remember this, a mutant saved your life." And I was like,
Fucking Hank, man. Hank is
Hank, man.
Hank, dude.
All right. We'll get there when we get there.
We're close.
So, episode 8, part 2. This is when Cable takes his whole plan to action. Basically, what we find out is that the mutant plague needs to happen in order for them to build up the antibodies to survive in the future. And I thought that this was brilliantly done. I didn't really have that many notes about this episode because I was just watching it and I was so entertained.
I also think with these double header episodes, I feel like a lot of the plot is established in the first one. The second one's mostly action. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think they just
for sure.
And that's the reason why they are 2-part episodes, because they are like, well, we can go really all out in our action. Because I was watching this, I'm like, not a lot's happening. It's just action, but it does end in a satisfying way. So
yeah. So what he does is that he gets Wolverine infected with the disease because his fast healing genes make it so he has the antibodies within minutes.
And he won't die.
So they're like, great, he has the cure. So now we don't need this disease and we don't need you, Apocalypse. And they're able to survive.
Yeah.
So
Genius
Cable's
plan.
Cable kind of rocks. I'm a Cable fan. I'm a Cable
Cable.
stan.
Yeah. I mean, I still like my streaming services, but yeah, I gotta love Cable.
Oh, Dill. I should have walked right into that one.
No, if you walk
Episode
into
9.
the cable, you'd electrocute yourself. Kels, come on.
Okay, now I've had enough. Now you need to take it down.
Yeah, I need to take my
Episode
jumper cables
9.
and pop off something.
Did you
bungee
just
jumping?
tell me to like?
No, I need to go. You were like, you need to stop. And I
Oh.
was like, oh, I need to go get my. I was trying to make another cable joke, but then I got to
Oh.
bungee jumping, which also sounds pretty fucking cool. So I don't know.
Would you ever? Actually, no, me neither.
Unless I was on The Amazing Race, and they were like, well, if you do this, you'll be in first, and you'll win $1 million. Otherwise, nope.
Okay. Yeah, I think $1 million would definitely sell me.
And I would go on
jumping.
Amazing Race with either Jake or Zach, so they'd probably do it instead of me. I would do the brain stuff, and then Zach and Jake or Jake would do the physical stuff.
Yeah,
I have it planned out. I'll eat the gross foods. I'll do the brain teasers. You will do the physical shit, the lifting and the jumping.
Good to know I'm not in your lineup of people you'd have on the Amazing Race as a partner. I'm glad that's where we stand.
We've never talked about it.
Well, it is a two-way street. You could have brought it up to me.
It's actually not always a two-way street. Like those Indian and like Asian streets get very tricky to navigate. You saw how I just turned your joke on you. Because you said two-way street and I was making a joke about the Amazing Race. Anyway,
let's talk about episode 9.
All right, so all 3 of my siblings are now in contention for Nina, and I won't do the Amazing Race together. I don't think that'll work. But Kelsey is now on my short list of people that I will be applying to the Amazing Race with. When I'm
Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear.
When
So
I'm
this is
older, as if I'm a child looking forward to my adult dreams. I'm like, I'm fucking adult. And honestly, if I wait any longer, I probably will be too out of shape to do it. So,
Rogue's episode.
good one.
So Rogue is getting haunted by this mysterious woman who we learned she kind of killed in her past life. This is during her mommy and me adventures, if you will.
Also
When
from Days of Future Past that we learned that Mystique is her mother.
yes. Also, fun fact from what I learned in the encyclopedia is that Mystique is also the mommy to another character that we know, and he goes by the name of Nightcrawler, who we know, of course, from one of those movies.
Who may or may not be coming up soon. Not this season, but
Who
I
knows?
think season 4
Um,
or 3. I forget.
so basically, when Mystique was acting as Rogue's foster mom, she would take her out on missions. They would do bad things together. She would utilize her powers, to hurt people and get what she
Mm.
wanted. And one of those people that she ended up hurting was Miss
Carol
Marvel.
Denver. Oh, Miss
Oh,
Marvel.
Carol Danvers. Oh, sorry. Are we gonna? Okay.
But
Let's
yeah,
just
Miss
both.
Marvel. This is our first
Yeah.
MCU to X-Men crossover that we've seen in the animated thing, which is
Yes.
cool. And
And it's a
it's
very
funny because
interesting
yeah,
version of Miss Marvel too.
yeah.
Because when
Mhm.
I think obviously now when we think Miss Marvel, we think Kamala Khan, but this is a Carol Danvers version of Miss Marvel, and she's not even in like the typical Captain Marvel suit. She's in this like leotard scarf thing. So
Yeah.
so this is why I love this episode, Dale. So we learned kind of how Rogue got her flight abilities and her super strength, which was,
From
as I pointed out in season 1, different from what she did in the movies, which was just have the what's it
mhm.
called? Deadly touch. But since she held on to Carol Danvers for so long, she ended up taking her entire, like she embodied all of
Kirby.
her energy. She Kirby'd her. She got Kirby. And so ever since then, Carol Danvers has been in a coma, known as Jane Doe in the hospital.
Mhm. Gave
And
me
so
big Grey's Anatomy vibes. The Jane Doe.
yeah,
Kind of got
yeah.
a little triggered. No
Oh,
offense.
you know her Jane Doe?
Ugh.
So
Because it made
this
me think of
version of
John Doe and George O'Malley, and I cried. Anyway,
no, we can't get into all that.
no.
So this version of Miss Marvel in the comics has an interesting plot line. Um, so Miss Marvel in the comics teams up with the X-Men. She actually develops cosmic powers.
Yeah.
I think
Which is
pretty
what we see in
similar.
her show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like the
which
MCU
is
show.
yeah. Um the cosmic powers that we know and love from the Tesseract. And after she develops these powers, she actually goes by Binary, which we know is what Lashana Lynch is dressed up in the post-credit scene in at the end of not Miss Marvel, The
The
Marvels.
Marvels. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh
All full
and
circle. And
so
now that makes sense why Beast is in the post credit scene. And, it's all connecting. And why, when we
yeah.
hear that she has mutant powers in Miss Marvel, have you watched back that scene since watching the show at all?
At the
With
post-credit scene?
Bruno? No, where Bruno's like,
Oh.
"You have mutant powers," and then you hear the da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh.
That's the theme song. So when we were
Dude,
watching
you're
this the
so
first time
right.
when we were watching this the first time, Miss Marvel, we were like, "Oh, everyone's saying that's the X-Men theme song." Now that we've heard this theme song a lot and it's a fucking banger, now we can kind of put that together. So it's all connected, and I think that's one of those things where if we had watched this show first, we probably would have from the beginning been like, "Well, how are they going to tie the X-Men into this?" But we were so aloof
Yeah.
because we hadn't seen the show yet. But it makes a lot of sense why the
Yeah.
Marvels and Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers and Lashana Lynch, all that is kind of connected under this X-Men umbrella. And really, when we think about it, that's kind of how they've been integrating the X-Men into the MCU. It's not going to be through Deadpool. We've already been doing it. We just didn't realize.
Mhm. Wow. Oh, it's so layered. And this entire
It's
time we thought that the
such a
MCU was
Shrek
going
onion.
downhill.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And now we've been played. They've been like subliminal messages almost. Anyway, so my two favorite moments happen at the end of this episode is when Rogue goes to visit Carol Danvers in the hospital and the nurse comes in and is like, "Oh, you know Jane Doe?" And she goes, "Her name is Carol Danvers. We were very close." And then we zoom in on Carol Danvers' face. Little smile. We'll
Mhm.
smile. I think Carol Danvers might be coming out of this coma.
I hope so, and again, we have never seen the show, so we don't know what's to come, but, like, I really hope we get
Mhm.
more of her in the future just because it's kinda cool to see these characters before, the public kind of had their idea of, "Oh, Carol Danvers is Brie Larson," like and I love Brie
Yeah.
Larson, but it's one of those things where it's cool to see what the more comic accurate versions of these characters are.
Yeah, for
Because some
sure.
are similar, some are different, like, Wolverine's pretty spot on to what Hugh Jackman did, but then, like, Rogue is so different.
Dill, we got a heavy hitter this episode. Episode 10.
Tale as old as time, song as
Do,
old as
do,
rhyme.
do, do,
We got
do.
the MVM of this season, Beast, getting his own little spotlight episode. He's been sitting. I spoiled my MVM because
It's okay. You spoiled mine too.
I knew it as soon as I texted you today. I was like, I know our MVM. I'm 90% sure
Okay. Okay.
because he spent all
Yeah.
season one biding his time, chilling
Yep.
in prison, and
Just awaiting his day in court.
even in season two, we don't get a lot of Beast, but every time he speaks, it's always so intentional, so smart, and so integral to what's going on. And then finally, they give us this heartbreaking 20 minutes of just what I think the crux of this X-Men philosophy in this X-Men series is, which is you wanting to be yourself in this world where you are different and learning how to find people who accept your differences, but then there's always going to be something that keeps you apart because of them. I think it's beautiful.
Mhm.
It has racial metaphors, not racist. I mean, there are racist themes,
It's
but
got racist shit. I
no, no, no.
love
But,
it.
I mean, it does. It does have some of that, but it also
Yeah.
deals with it's kind of essentially the first superhero. What am I looking for? Biracial relationship in a way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's at least what it's kind
Oh,
of
for
written on.
sure.
So anyway,
Yeah.
talk about it because I
Absolutely.
just wanted to rave because I love this is my favorite episode of the season. But
Loved it. Loved the episode. As soon as I saw the title, I was like, oh,
yeah, it's too
we're getting
short
a
though.
love
Too
story.
short. I think it's one of those things where
Yeah.
I think they didn't need to cut away at all to Professor X and Magneto in this one. They just needed to. I wish it was just so much more Hank centric, and it is Hank centric.
Yeah.
But I wish it was just a little longer and like we just had even more time with them. But like otherwise, just a great episode, especially
Yeah.
thematically.
Yeah, 100%. So, Hank is obviously working on this case in the eye clinic. I loved how the outside of the building just said eye clinic, as if they have an entire building dedicated to just like eye surgeries, as if they don't just take place in a hospital. Loved it.
Hey,
Eye clinic.
eyes are
They had the
important.
budget for it. They had the budget for it. And so this woman, Carly, one of Hank's patients, seemingly, which is when I was like, okay, are we breaking some kind of rules here with this whole relationship? Don't care. Loved it. She's getting eye surgery, so she's going to regain her sight. But because the mutants are taking a lot of heat, the hospital gets bombed. People catch Hank, a little too close with Carly. People get upset. So the other doctor on the case comes in and is like, okay, listen, you can't be on the case. It's not a good look. I respect you. I admire you. You
Yeah.
can't be here. So sorry. And so this is when also we find out that Carly's dad is also a total bigot. And this is when we dropped the bigot word for the first time. Hank called it as it was. He called it as he saw it, and they are bigots.
Mhm.
And I just loved that they
Yeah.
went there in this child's animated show.
Yeah. When you were talking about how like is the doctor patient relationship a little weird? The reason why
Yeah.
this works so well and why the Gambit thing is icky, the whole like kissing her while she's asleep thing is not good, but
Mhm.
this works is because Beast is so conscious to always be checking in and he's very communicative and he's very upfront. He's like, I am a mutant, I am this, I am that. Like he's very careful with his words and not in a way where he's trying to dance around it because he's being manipulative about it. I think he's fully being upfront and honest because he doesn't think they should be together because he thinks society would not look highly on it. And that's the thing, it's the communication that is so important and which makes
Yeah.
this relationship endearing. Because yeah, like doctor patient relationship is a little weird. We've seen it in things like Waitress is all about that, but I like how he's very upfront from the get-go, and they just have this connection which cannot be denied, but he is also very upfront and honest with her the whole step through. He's very thorough,
Mhm.
especially with her blindness. He's very respectful of that fact, and the way he kind of talks about it, navigates it, is very respectful to her blindness and aiding her rather than taking advantage of it, which I think is great.
Yeah, I also had a moment, Dill, where I was nervous that she was gonna take off the bandages and see what he looked like and then reject him,
That's
and my heart wouldn't have been able to take
That's the
that at
key.
all.
That's the key for why this episode works so well, because it's the same reason Get Out, Jordan Peele changed the ending post Trump administration. The original ending of Get Out was going to be the cop car was going to roll up, a cop was going to come out and arrest Daniel Kaluuya, and he said, "You know what? In this day and age, with the administration that's going on and the
Mm,
way the politics are, we need a win. We need a win." So they
mm,
changed the ending where the TSA agent comes out and saves his buddy Chris, and I think that is kind of what this is. It's they could and you think it's going to go that way where he's going to take off the bandages or she's going to take off the bandages and be like, "Oh, you monster." And then it's going to
yeah,
just be like, "Well, shit." But the fact that they give him this win and they give them the satisfaction of, no, she actually sees him as beautiful is so important, because it's
yeah,
like so many movies that's about racism, they very rarely showcase the joy of it. Like a lot of LGBT stories are about the pains of coming of age, of coming out, and how it's so tough and so difficult, that when it's all about just celebrating and being happy and being open, like that's the best stuff. Now I think we've kind of gotten past the
mhm.
sad stuff. I think that's kind of what this is. It's like, no, give him a win. Show that there are people that are good and are accepting of these people, because you need them to balance out the others who are bigots. I love this.
Yeah, she also says my favorite line about it too, when Hank first comes to tell her that he's not gonna be, there for like her surgery and everything. He's like, "I'm sorry, I won't be here tomorrow, but like I'm rooting for you. I'm thinking of you. Whatever, I gotta go." She says, "But it was you I wanted to see." He was the first thing she wanted to see upon seeing
So
for the
good.
first time ever. Like, if that's not love, I don't know what
Mhm.
is. I don't
And you
want it.
I'm thinking of something right now that even if you don't look at this as like a racial statement or even like a, any sort of looks thing, could also be just
Mhm.
about body positivity in general. Just the idea
Mhm.
where she's like she likes what he looks like because it's him, not because he
Mhm.
looks this way. It's just he looks this way and he's a beautiful person. And that's what it is. It's like not she's not necessarily like, "Oh, fuck yeah, he's hairy, he's big." It's not like that. It's not fetishizing it, but it's also not being like, "Not what I pictured, but I still love you." It's the opposite. It's just, "You're beautiful." That's the first thing she says
Yeah.
is, "You're beautiful." Like, I love it. This episode is so good, and it's too short. Too short.
Oh, that reminds me of a Criminal Minds quote. There's the iconic, Spencer Reed character who's like the know-it-all,
Mhm,
like, uh not know-it-all because that's, like, negative. He's just, like, a very smart person. He's a boy genius, if you will.
mhm.
And someone asked him at one of the episodes, he's like, "Oh, like Reed, like what's your type? Like who'd be your ideal woman?" And he was like, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter what she looks like because to me, she's already the most beautiful girl in the world."
Uh,
And I'm like, "Oh, literally kill me, literally
yeah,
kill me. That
yeah.
I'm dead." Okay, so then this was another episode where Wolverine had a full side quest that ended up tying into what was going on in the episode because the Nazis kidnapped Carly for whatever
Yeah.
reason, just to probably make the mutants look bad. And it wasn't until Beast and Logan saved her that the dad came around and was like, "Hey, thank you so much. I changed my mind about all of this."
Which is also important to show that people can
Yeah.
come around to it, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the next masterpiece. With
No, no.
I didn't make him the MVM because like he's not really a mutant, he's more of an alien. But Mojo, baby, let's get our Mojo back. Let's
No.
talk about Mojo.
I literally wrote down on my
Mojo.
notes, hated it, refused to watch it,
You
refused
didn't
to
watch it
rewatch it.
or
No,
rewatch it?
I
Okay.
watched it the first time. I didn't watch it the second time because I was like, I'm not putting myself through this again. It was so irritating. It was so like it was so out of place. Like gave nothing to the grand scheme of this whole season. The
And for
villain
it to
was just
come so
annoying.
late. And the thing is, if
Yeah,
this were like episode 3 or 4, it'd be like, whatever.
whatever.
But like
Throwaway
you
episode,
just came
filler.
off of this beautiful commentary about body positivity and breaking down racial barriers, and like literally Rogue's whole backstory with Captain Marvel and she's in a coma, like all his deep shit. Cable and his son, two-parter epic, continuation of Days of Future Past, and then you stick with this shit. This is the penultimate
Yeah,
episode if you look at it pretty much, because the next two are like
yeah.
the same episode. So it's like, what the fuck? I don't know. Mojo Vision, man. Ugh.
God, what a fucking
I'll
what
say
CAI torture, dude, that
it is
episode was.
memorable. It is memorable. which can't be said about some episodes in the first half of this season. Like, I think there's some episodes where I'm like, what happened in that one again? Whereas here, I'm like, I know what happened. Uh-oh.
And what an ugly guy, dude. Sorry, I
Hey,
just
well, we
realized
just had a conversation about it's all what's on the
Okay.
inside.
that big green thing with spiky legs that he
What
walks
if Beast
on.
looked like that?
No, but Beast would. No, don't ever say that about Beast. He deserves better than that. Mojo, a spineless mass of yellow flesh. Mojo is the ruler of Mojo World. His powers are travels on robotic platform that moves on metal spider-like legs.
Can you
Projects energy.
just keep going, keep going?
Sorry. Projects energy bolts from his hands. His very presence can kill life nearby. That's one of his powers.
Can you read the first line one more time?
A spineless.
That's like the first like 10 words.
Okay, sorry.
Because I'm gonna make a big point, and you're gonna never look at another character the same way again.
A spineless mass of yellow flesh. Mojo
Done. No, that's it.
Okay.
You know who else is a spineless yellow flesh? Your favorite
SpongeBob?
character, Mr. SpongeBob SquarePants.
Okay, but he's a cute little sea sponge. This guy? Guy. Oh, this is gonna be really hard.
Mojo! Yeah, there it is. Yeah, no. I mean, what do we want to say anything about this episode? Do you have a quote?
No, I don't have a quote. I didn't watch it again. I don't care about the quote. I don't care about Mojo. I don't care about his television show. I don't care. Episode 12, Reunion, Part 1. This is when we met Kazar. He is like the leader of the cave people in Savage Island. And I just wanted to tell you this fun fact about Kazar is that the saber-toothed tiger that's hanging out with him the whole time, if it's about Mojo, I don't want to know.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
You do want to know. No, I was looking up quotes of Mojo, and I found this, which I guess is from the comics, that just says, I want to fuck a girl.
What?
I don't know if this is real or not.
It's from the comics, dude? No.
I
Put
just
that
looked
away.
up Mojo, and that's what it was. Here's another one.
Ugh.
Oh God, that smell! And he goes, "It's sweaty in there."
Ew. I'm done. We've had enough.
Oh my God,
We've had
what
enough.
a beautiful creature.
So anyway, Kazar.
He's Mr. Water News from freaking Monsters Inc. That's what he is.
That's what. Okay, I was gonna say that, but then I didn't know if you were gonna get what I was talking about. Well, because anyway.
How do you?
Sorry.
Who's the real?
I don't care if
movie?
1,000 children have to die. Isn't that what Mr. Water News says?
I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die. Who's the real villain? I think you underestimate how many times a month I watch Monsters Inc. Kelsey. Okay. I don't log them on Letterboxd all the time because it's usually I'll put it on while I like go to bed thing. So I don't really watch it. So I don't feel like it's worth logging. But I'll always wake up for that line. I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die. Who's the real villain in that movie? Is it Water News or is it Randall? This is a big debate out
there. Water News, because Randall just wants to one up. What's his face? Sully.
James P. Sullivan.
Like he just wants some recognition. He's just tired of being number 2. Mm-hmm. Does he want to kill all children? No.
Well, no. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Water News is the villain.
Water News is worse. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Continue.
We're almost done. We're almost done. We'll get this done before midnight.
And then better. I still have to post my TikTok today, which is another thing I have to do to stay up late.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. Can I talk about Kazar now?
Sure.
Kazar.
Sure.
I just want to let you know that the saber-toothed tiger that he's with this whole episode in the comics, it's canonical. That saber-toothed tiger raised him. He taught him everything he knows.
Wow, it's like a Jungle Book thing.
Yeah. Cool. And his name is Zabu. Okay.
Like
he's also married to Shauna the She-Devil. Okay.
Shauna the Sheep? So what? What did you say?
Shauna the She-Devil. Oh, very different.
You threw so many names and terms at me in that last like 40 seconds. I'm processing.
I have to remember what's happening in this. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So the mutates just kidnap Magneto and Professor X, and they take them to the master. Obviously, we just find out that Sinister is the master, and he forces Professor X to send a fake message to the other X-Men to come rescue him on the island. And they do this through the character Sauron.
Yep.
Sauron.
Mhm.
And
Which
so
is
this
also
is
the name of the villain of Lord of the Rings. So if you ever watch it, Kels, you'll get to know Sauron really well.
Okay, he's a pterodactyl hybrid who can
Mhm.
hypnotize people and make them see hallucinations, because I looked
Mhm.
into his character. I
Yeah.
also found out that a lot of these characters come into play in in the Secret Invasion
Comics.
plot that happens in
Mhm.
the comics,
Mhm.
and it just made me so sad for what Secret Invasion actually
Yeah.
was,
We didn't get any
because they
pterodactyls. Yeah.
no, like it came up multiple times in my research, and I was just like, they should have just went full throttle.
Yeah.
Scrolls are trying to take over the planet. Like, it shouldn't have just been Gravik and this small community. It should have just been like, it could have been it could have been so much better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay, so now we're finally on part 2, our season finale. So basically, Sinister's whole thing here on this island is that he's taken powers from other mutants and then giving it to other mutants, so that the mutants are becoming stronger and more versatile, if you will.
Mhm.
And so Wolverine, once again, somehow on his own, just taken off through the jungle. He actually runs into Kazar, and they kind of team up because they both realize, same team, same team. And they travel together to the Citadel to take down Sinister. And this is when two of my two favorite quotes of this episode happened. So they pile on together onto a pterodactyl to fly away, and Wolverine asks, "Does this leather chicken have seatbelts?" Does this leather chicken have seatbelts, dude?
I
Has
love
he ever
Wolverine.
seen a chicken? Like, I don't think it looks anything like a pterodactyl. And then, okay, this is before I knew that Zabu was this like intelligent beast that
Oh,
apparently
Zabu.
raised
Yeah.
Kazar, the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
I just loved how right before they're about to fly away, Kazar looks at Zabu and says, "Zabu, you must remain here, Zabu. If we do not return, avenge us." And then they fly off into the sky. And I'm like, dude, you're talking to a tiger. Like, he doesn't know what you're saying. Like, he's just like, he's seeing black and white and like blah 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 blah, like the teacher
Charlie Brown.
talking in Charlie Brown.
Mhm.
But apparently
Yeah.
he's like more intelligent, so I guess that line makes sense. But like, upon hearing it the first time, I thought it was very funny. And since the I wrote this down, the mutants don't have their powers on in the Savage Land. Rogue and Gambit are able to exchange a consensual kiss
Yes.
together. So
One that
okay,
won't,
so
like,
if
zap
you look
them.
at the leaderboard now,
We're
minus
up.
one plus
We're up.
one plus one. So they saved it. I'm just
We ended
saying.
up in the green. That's good.
We ended up in the green, and so they have a kiss because Rogue's powers are off, so they can smooch a little without anything bad happening. And they blow up Sinister, but one of his powers is that he can basically come back together again, so he'll be back eventually. They save Morph. Professor X is able to break the trance on Morph, so they're able to save him. And that was our big old season finale.
There you go. Yeah,
So
season 2. I mean, we
okay,
already did our MVM. Yeah.
yes, LVM. You told me you were between two. So who was it?
It was one that I think was more annoying, one that was more useless.
Yeah.
The very beginning of the Captain Marvel episode, Rogue screaming, I
Yeah.
wanted to die.
She did
But
a
I
lot
do
of
think
screaming
she
in that
has a
episode.
really good story function, so I didn't go with her. I was gonna go with her solely for the screaming, but I'm gonna go with someone who I just think wasn't on the season at all, and that's Jubilee. Where
Yeah.
the fuck is Jubilee?
Yeah.
And I know she has like a few moments, especially when she's sent alone to that Nazi center or whatever, but like, for someone who is the audience surrogate into this world, as told by episode 1, and this is just what the pilot gives us, that is the one we're supposed to be seeing this world through. The fact that she's invisible for the season is not a good sign in investing us. And maybe that's why you didn't feel a sense of overall cohesion between the episodes, because there was no Jubilee to take you through it like there was the first season. Because the first season, there's a lot of moments where Jubilee's like, I want to try. And they're like, you're the new kid. All right, give it a try, kid. Like, there's all those little moments to remind us, like, oh, she's the new one. She's like us, the audience. She's helping us along the journey. Here, she's invisible. And I don't think it's her fault, obviously. Unless it is, then, she did it to herself.
Well,
but
it's... Yeah, it's funny that you say that, Dill, because the entire first season, she's like, I want to try, let me do it. I'm not just a kid. And they're like, you're a kid, but like, give it a go. We respect you. We see you as your equal, even though you do have to train a little bit.
Yeah.
But in this season, every other line out of her mouth was, oh my God, I hate them. They're so annoying. They always forget about me.
Yeah.
There's no food in this school they're leaving me in.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with her and just kind of sidelined her. Yeah. So she's my LVM for that reason. Who is yours?
It was very... my LVM, Jubilee was a very close...
I was going to say, he's an alien. You can't pick him. You can't pick Mojo.
It's not Mojo. I want to stop talking about him from this moment on. I never want to think about him ever again. But Jubilee was a very close pick for me. I ended up not picking her because I just thought that she was so forgotten. I was like, that's a waste of a pick. So I actually went Professor X because I didn't respect his storyline at all. And when he was used, he was able to get manipulated by that guy, Sauron. Yeah. And I don't know, I just don't think they utilized him well in this season.
Yeah, much. I thought it was cool to see him walk, which was like an interesting choice, and like seeing some of the stuff with him and Magneto, but I agree. The two of them just didn't... What?
Sorry, it's just I get it because we always see him in the chair, but just like hearing the sentence, it was cool to see him walk.
No, but like in the sense that it gave him a few more interesting action moments that we wouldn't have seen in other things, like when he rescues Magneto from the river or whatever. And there's a line that you didn't bring up that I love, where Magneto was like, you know, like, a life without me, and it is probably a better life for you or whatever. And I forget what the exact quote is. I'm going to misquote it, but like a really nice interaction between the two of them. I don't know. I think I like the Professor X Magneto stuff a little bit more than you do, but yeah, I agree. He's not used to his most potential in this one.
I know which moment you're talking about because I almost wrote this down. I liked this line a lot because Professor X responds with something like, I wouldn't take any satisfaction in your death. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Which
cool
So I agree. They're in love.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get canceled.
No, we're not. I mean, listen,
no, I know.
It's life. You know,
I just think humans, it's funny.
Fuck, that's how it is.
Okay.
Unless they're Yoshi. Unless you're Yoshi.
We have to think about the Yoshis of the world.
And Jill. I love it. And my LED lights are falling again. Hold on. I'm just gonna bend over. What's your favorite episode here?
Oh, that's a tough call. I think we talked about it so much that I think I gotta give it to Beauty and the Beast. Hank's episode. But I will say Rogue's episode is a really close
I know you
second.
really like Rogue's, yeah. Yeah, and I would really say Cable's episode. Cable's episode is my close second. I really like
Cable's episode. And then obviously my least episode, we're not even talking about it because we all know.
Don't bring it up, Kels. Please.
We don't talk about
I'm kidding. I'm the one who's been bringing them up. Honestly, yeah, I guess that'll be my least favorite as well. I was going to say maybe one of the ones earlier in the season that's a little more forgettable, but I think you made a good case for all of them. Anyway, next week we're going to do season 3. The thing is, season 3 is a lot longer in terms of episode count and probably duration, but it's because there are like 4 episodes that are the Phoenix story and then 5 that are the Dark Phoenix story. So it's really like, it's going to feel like 13. It's just 2 episodes are like an hour long rather than 20 minutes because you're doing the whole Phoenix thing. So we're getting a lot of Jean Grey next season, which is going to be cool.
All right.
I think it's about time. And because we've seen that storyline played out in like 2 or 3 different iterations, it'll be fun to see how they do it here. Any last thoughts on this before we wrap it up, Kels?
Dill, I forgot to mention that the entire plague plot, obviously, we know all about what it's like to be suffering with a plague and blaming a certain group of people for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this 1993 this was. It's like they predicted the future or something. Is this The Simpsons? Because they just predicted the future.
Yeah. You can find us down below. Those are our socials. I'm not going to list them because I need to go to bed. But it's been a joy talking to you live, Kels, on a Tuesday. Next time we will be on a Monday. I promise you we'll make it work. And then I think the week after we're going to have some trivia. I'm in the midst of scheduling those matches because we need to get back to our tournament. So I think that's what it'll
Yeah,
be.
we
We
really
can get a
do.
few matches filmed that'll require less on Kelsey with her wisdom teeth, even though it's a quick recovery. I'll tell you, it
Okay,
should be.
good to know.
We just won't record on the day, but it's my birthday, so I don't want to record on the day. I want to do nothing but stay around, watch movies, drink, have friends visit me in and out, and have a good time. Yeah. Anything else?
That's it for me.
That's it for me. Well, we'll see you guys next time with X-Men: The Animated Series Season 3. Welcome back, Morph. Good to have you.